Welcome. My name is Karen Lips, and I'm the president of the Network of Enlightened Women. New works to educate, equip, and empower young women to be leaders in our society. We are thrilled today to be joined by one of our newly elected Congresswomen. Today, we have Congresswoman Young Kim with us. She's an immigrant who represents California's 39th district. Through hard work and determination, she has achieved the American dream. She's a mom of four and a small business owner, and she started her public service as Director of Community Relations and Asian Affairs for former Congressman Ed Royce in the seat which she now holds in Congress. I think that's a great career move and career advancement. Thank you so much for joining us today, Congresswoman.
Thank you for having me, Karen. It's great to talk to you, and I look forward to having a great conversation.
Yes, well, it's great to see that you had experience in the state legislature before running for Congress. Could you talk about what initially made you run for your first public office and then what made you decide to run for Congress?
Sure. I was working for former Congressman Chairman Ed Royce, who was serving in the Foreign Affairs Committee as chairman before his time left. But it was in the early '90s when I had the opportunity to be introduced to then state senator, and I just went on to continue to serve with him as he was elected to Congress in 1992. I served with him and served as his key liaison to his 39 congressional district. Along the way, I have been involved with so many different community nonprofit organizations, utilizing my working in a congressional office as well as my nonprofit background, using my background as a small businesswoman. I just saw an opportunity to be able to serve the community that I live, raise my children. And, this is a community that I've known since my family immigrated to the United States. So when the opportunity came, I jumped at the opportunity to run for office to continue my service to this community and the country that provided me with all these great opportunities. So in 2013, I left Ed Royce's office to run for 2014, run for state assembly. I was running against a well-funded sitting incumbent, but my first race was, obviously it was very, very difficult, but through hard work and determination and people, really believing in me to be able to represent them, they helped me to be elected in 2014. So I became the first Korean American Republican woman to represent that assembly district in Orange County area. That was the first time ever. And I broke the 2/3 supermajority. I was very, very delighted and honored to be able to serve in that community and add my voice in Sacramento, working on state legislation and issues. But then in 2018, Congressman Ed Royce decided that he will retire at the end of that term. It created an opportunity for me. I just felt the need to continue the representation that 39th district and constituents come to know. I said, you know what? The 20 years plus that I've been working with Ed, maybe God had a plan, and this is the time He's asking me to step up and serve the country. As I always said to my friends, and my parents has always instilled in me the I guess the value of serving and giving back to the community whenever I had the opportunity. So here I am. This was not the first time I ran for Congress, because in 2018, even though we ran a very, very competitive race, we came a little bit short, very, very short of losing that one. And then in 2020, I didn't give up. And the result, I'm here representing 39th district.
Well, I love, Congresswoman, how you talk about opportunity and use that word a lot as you were describing your career path. That in America, you've had so many opportunities, and that positive tone you take towards this country, I think we
Mhm.
don't always see from those elected in Congress today. Could you talk a little bit about how you worked hard and achieved the American dream, and what opportunities you want to make sure are still here for your children and grandchildren?
Look, I come from a very, very humble immigrant family. My family came here from South Korea. I actually, the path to coming to California, It started with my family first immigrating to the island of Guam. When I finished my junior high school there, I went to Hawaii, finished high school there, and then came to California to attend USC. I'm not sure if any of our viewers will be attending USC, but fight on. That's where I met my husband after I graduated. We got married a year after my graduation in 1985, and then we started raising a family. Now I serve the community I call home for decades in the United States Congress. To me, this shows the American dream is alive and it's real. So I know I'm not the first, but I mean, I'm the first in a sense that I am one of the first Korean American women to serve in Congress, but I know I'm not going to be the last. And I really hope that my story can inspire others, especially other Asian Americans, women, girls, to pursue their American dream like I did. What I want to achieve is through my story and through the hard work and determination to get ahead. You don't want to be just satisfied with the position that you are in. I always tell everybody, my team included, that just don't be content with doing just a little bit within the boundaries that are provided for you. And when somebody asks you to do this, don't just do that. Go beyond it and build your own network, build your relationship, do more than what is asked of you, because somebody is watching you, somebody is taking note of you. And in 2020, this is the best comeback campaign you will hear, after that devastating heartbreak loss in 2018. So I worked hard. My team worked hard. I put together the same team and then made some changes from 18 to 20, and we won. It also helped build and grow our Republican Party. Look, in 2020, we had the largest number of freshman class. There were 60 freshmen that were elected in 2020. Of those, 47 are Republican. And of those, there are 20 Republican women. And of those, I'm only one of two Korean American / Asian American Republican women to serve in Congress. This is how we're going to help grow the party. I think Republicans' work to empower people to pursue their dream gives me hope for the future. And I always say the GOP is grand opportunity party. And I think the fact that so many women, minorities, and veterans won this past cycle as Republicans is proof of that. We are creating pro-growth policies to help Americans of all backgrounds to succeed, just like I did. And I want to be able to encourage others to do the same. If this young girl can do this from South Korea many decades ago, and now walking the halls of Congress and being a member of 435 members of Congress, anything is possible. This is the American dream. And I want others to follow their path and live their American dream.
Well, that's a beautiful story, and I appreciate how you talk about really being an inspiration for other women and girls out there. And one of the things I imagine you have faced is attacks of being an outspoken woman who maybe doesn't march in line with liberals all the time, right? It seems today that if you don't accept all liberal policies as a woman, that sometimes the left wants to take away your woman card or say you don't count or say you're not coming up with your own views. Could you talk a little bit about what informs your views?
What informs my views? Well, the ability to interact with the constituents on a daily basis. I mean, we spend time here during the week working on legislation, voting on bills. But it is very, very important for me to get back to the district every weekend, even though it's 5-hour flights coast to coast. But as a mother, when I talk to other mothers, when I talk to other immigrants, when I talk to other constituents, they bring the ideas to me, how difficult it is to live and work in the state of California, for example, since that's where I'm from. The policies like AB5 that have killed jobs, killed gig economy, causing workers and businesses to flee our state and move to places like Texas.
You know,
When we lose
could you explain that a little bit? Because I think that would be really interesting, really a really interesting topic for our viewers. Could you explain AB5 a little bit?
Sure. AB5 is the bill that was passed out of state legislature in 2017. And that it defines or redefines the independent contractor status to be an employee. For example, if you're an independent contractor working on one project or so, you have to be put on the company's payroll as an employee before you can get the job. So the reclassification of independent contractor to becoming an employee hurt a lot of industries like Uber and Lyft drivers. I think that was an easy way to explain it. And there are companies like that that represent industries with the resources to fight this. So before the AB5 legislation was signed into law, there were several carve outs. And some industries were able to fight and get exemption to the rule. So they don't apply to the AB5, but others were not able to. They decided California is already too high tax and they left the state, as I mentioned earlier. So these are the type of legislation that hurt our businesses and industry in the state of California. But I come to Washington now, and the first thing this Democrat controlled House of Representatives passed is PRO Act. That only nationalizes the AB5, the failed policies of California's legislation. So I think that understands why that is so bad, and that's why I'm fighting it. These bad policies, far left progressive agenda, increasing taxes, that's what we are fighting for.
Well, it's interesting. You've really got the on the ground experience in California fighting a lot of the liberal policies that now they're trying to bring to Washington. Could you
Yeah.
talk a little bit about your legislative proposals? What will define success for you in Congress? What do you hope to achieve?
Well, in the earlier part, in the first few months I've been in office, even though I'm a freshman, I was able to introduce several bills. In fact, 4 bills passed out of the House and one became law already. As a former small business owner representing the business communities that are hurt, especially during the pandemic, I heard from the constituents, I heard from small businesses, the difficulty of staying open. And we passed last year, before I came to Congress, through the CARES Act, there were trillions of dollars that were passed and $1 trillion that still have not been spent. And I saw that paycheck protection program that helped the small businesses, that program was coming to an end on March 31. So early this year, I introduced the bill to extend that through the end of May 31st. And small business have 30 more days through the end of June right now to process those loans. What it did was during that 2-month extension, we were able to help 2.7 million small businesses to apply for PPP loans and get $54 billion in additional help. If I didn't introduce that bill in a bipartisan way, working together across the aisle with my Democratic colleagues, we would not have had the opportunity to help small businesses. This is one of the top priorities for me, and continue to work on policies that will help not only the small businesses, but work on policies that will help our businesses to get ahead, to be innovative. I'm also serving as a ranking member on subcommittee on innovation, entrepreneurship, and workforce development. So focusing on those areas that will help our economy move forward is critically important. And obviously, there are other legislative priorities like working on common sense immigration reform that we are seeing right now at the border is a travesty. It's a border crisis that we need to address. But I think one of the ways that we can do is, again, I keep urging the Biden administration, even Vice President Kamala Harris, even though she went to Guatemala directly, she has not gone down to the border. And she laughs at the idea of going down to the border because she's afraid of facing the reality, because she has no solution to tackle with this border crisis. So working on common sense immigration reform that includes border security and addressing these migrants that are crossing the border, making those dangerous tracks from Central America down to the border of Mexico and making those illegal crossings. This is a humanitarian crisis. This is a public health crisis, especially compounded with the COVID outbreak. So these are some of the issues that I'm putting a priority on working very closely.
Well, you've talked about tackling a number of issues, and I imagine that persistence that you mentioned at the beginning of the interview
Yeah.
will pay off on some of those. I'd love to hear more about general advice you might have for young women who want to be leaders now on campus and then hope to be leaders in their communities after college.
You know, especially women, I hope that you will look at me and say, God, that young girl who came to this country about 4.5 decades ago, she is she's working for us. She's a member of Congress now. If she can do this, I think I can do this. So I want to be able to encourage others using my story to get involved in the political process and use your voice. And on that note, I want to give you a few quick tips. One, when attending a forum or a conference or meeting people, ask questions because it will help you stand out and be remembered not only by the conference attendees but the speakers. And do that, ask for their business cards and follow up from the meeting with simple thank you notes. Sending a quick email, sending text cards, or even writing a thank you card will help you maintain the relationship and build your own network. Trust me, it will come in handy. And like I said, speak up, get involved, don't give up. Look, I didn't give up. Winners don't quit and quitters don't win. And I didn't look at my 2018 loss as a failure. I looked at it as an opportunity for lessons to be learned, and I built from that, and I made my team stronger, and I came back. Like I said, I'm the great success story of a comeback kid. So just stay focused, and just remember, we are stronger together.
Yeah, and what lessons from running a small business have helped you in Congress?
Definitely, as a former business owner, I understand the difficulties that businesses are facing. They are making the realistic, everyday, decisions. How, what can I do to make my payroll? What can I do to take care of my employees? Because it's not just the making the payroll. You have a relationship. You have families that you are dealing with. So this is what I keep in mind every time I work in Congress, working on small business committee, or whether it's a space science and technology committee, or even working on my foreign affairs committee, dealing with our allies, because we have the security and trade relationship. We're talking about free trade agreements. All of these come in handy, utilizing my background. So I'm going to use my, background as a small business owner, understanding the difficulties, and always, always make sure that the best thing is for the government to get out of the way so that businesses will not be overburdened with the regulations, will not be overburdened with high tax increases. We need to be mindful of our decisions that we make in Washington, how it will impact the lives of average Americans, and, Americans in general.
Well, Congresswoman, in New, we talk about empowering young women, empowering them to be leaders, empowering them to make the choices that are best for themselves and their families. And often we talk about this under the term opportunity feminism, trying to give women the opportunity to pursue the lives that they want, even if that's different, right? There shouldn't be just one model of what it means to be a woman today in our society. I wanted to ask you, do you consider yourself a feminist?
Well, you know what? I am a practical, realistic woman with a common sense. That's all I can say. I mean, I came to Washington to bring that independent leadership that people are hungry for. I came to Washington to help break the gridlock that stopped our country from moving forward. I don't want to use the identity politics here. I worked hard to get to where I am. People chose to send me to Washington to be their representative because they felt that I am the best person to do that job. In 2018, when it was an open seat with Ed Roy's retirement, there were 17 candidates. Look, in that 2018 primary, I was the top vote getter. I came in first place. And then I moved on to the November election because the voters and the constituents felt that I was the best person to do the job. And same thing in 2020, they sent me to Washington, despite the fact that my district, in the 39th district in California, they chose Joe Biden, and he won overwhelmingly by over 10%. This is a Democratic district, and but I survived through hard work. So doesn't matter whether you are a female or male, or whether you are ethnic, minority, what background you are in. I don't want to put the identity politics into play. I want people to see me for who I am, someone with the qualifications, someone with experience, who just happens to be a Korean American, who just happens to be an immigrant, who happens to be a woman who raised four wonderful children.
Well, that's an inspiring note to end on. And wanted to see, I love you've shared stories of hard work and persistence. Any final words of wisdom you'd like to share with our students? And if you could also share where they could follow you on social media, that would be great.
Yes, just like I said, don't give up. Winners don't quit, quitters don't win. Be persistent, dream big, set the goal high. Remember, Harriet Tubman always said, every great dream begins with a dreamer. Oh, remember, you always have within you the strength, the perseverance, the persistence to reach higher and dream big, and make a difference in the community. And making a difference begins with you working in your community, in your school, where you are. Finish that job. I mean, finish college first of all, and you will get far ahead. So stay focused, and just make that dream and make your own American dream a reality. Follow me on Rep Young Kim. And if you can just retweet and share anything that you see and put some positive comments, that would be greatly appreciated.
Well, thank you, Congresswoman, for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.